Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is the power of questions. And uh, I think this is something that is often overlooked. And we get to look at the power and importance of conscious questions. So it should be a fun conversation. But before we get started, let's just take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling as you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you joining us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's with us. We're talking today about the power of questions. So talked yesterday about the courage to question, and today it's the power of questions. So our minds, our brains, or whatever that is our thinking bit, um, acts sort of like a heat-seeking missile. That when we focus it on a target, it it goes to that direction. And questions are perhaps one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful way to focus that intelligence, that heat-seeking missile, so to speak. I'm not loving that metaphor anymore, given the violence of it, but hopefully you get the idea. A homing device. How about that? A homing device. So when we ask a question, our brain looks for a way to answer that question. So if we ask ourselves bad questions, we're going to get bad answers. So if we ask ourselves questions like, what is wrong with me? What's your brain going to do? It's going to go find a whole thing, a whole list of things, a whole litany of things that are wrong with you, right? And if I ask, what new possibilities might be available for me today? Where's my brain going to go? What if I look at what are my strengths? If I ask, what are my strengths that I can expand on? Your brain is going to be looking in that direction. And so it's a very, very simple mechanism and a very, very powerful one to harness questions to focus our attention and actually encourage our expansion and our growth. So what we're looking at doing here is cultivating conscious questioning, conscious questioning, and noticing what is going on with us. This is all part of a presence practice, I guess, is being self-aware enough to reflect on, okay, I'm in a mood. What would help shift my mood? How would I prefer to feel? Sometimes it can be what's going on here, and we can look and maybe identify something. And I'm not saying we want to bypass those things, but we also want to find ways to move ourselves into more desirable states where we can be more productive or more focused. And sometimes it's just a worthwhile to just be in the state you're in. However, we're not condemned to that. Like, we have options. And so asking questions like, even what are the three most important things to accomplish today? Or what would further me in what action would further me in the fulfillment of my dreams? So we have a an untapped treasure trove of questions that can be redirecting our attention and our focus instead of what's in my way, which can be a useful question sometimes, as long as we don't get rooted in that rabbit hole, where we can say, okay, so what's in my way, and how can I remove that obstacle? If we follow it up with, or dissolve that obstacle, if we follow it up with a generative question, that's really what we're looking at here, is to cultivate a habit of generative questions that will help us develop a trajectory and move us into the directions that we desire to go in our lives. And my guess is that a lot of us indulge in rather destructive questions, or at least questions that don't further our intentions. And it might not be a bad idea to write down a list of inspiring questions to get your day started, to bring you back to center. And some really powerful questions are questions that are speculative. So, for example, what would I feel like if I felt better? What would it feel like to feel confident? How would I hold myself if I were happy? How would I be moving if I felt assured and clear? What kinds of, if I did know how to write this, what would I say? If I did know how to do this, that, or the other thing, then what might happen? Because it's a way to trick our minds into another state of capability or competence, even. So I don't know about you, but I often can feel blocked when it comes to writing, or very, very self not self-absorbed, but I just kind of get constipated when it comes to writing sometimes. ChatGPT has been worlds of help in that regard, but self-conscious is what happens. and I have historically second guessed myself a lot when it comes to writing. And so questions like, if I knew exactly what to say, what would it feel like? Or if I knew exactly the right words, what words would they be? Or if I felt totally confident in expressing this thought, how would I speak it? It gets us into a different place, into a different mindset. And I think that could help in all kinds of ways. If I were motivated, what would that be like? Welcome, welcome. Oh, wow. Welcome, Brandy. So good to have you here with us this morning. Brandy says, this is my first time here, and says hi to Jennifer. Jennifer, I don't see you, but welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here too. So, usually what we're talking about is the power of questions to direct our focus, to shift our energy, to um, be something generative where we can consciously, actively engage in shaping our experience of life. So we talk all the time about how shifting our perception shifts our world. Truly shifting our story shifts our world, that we really truly do have the ability to create a transformation in the world, our experience of the world, by shifting our beingness. And one of the most powerful ways to be able to do that is through the power of questions. So I know there's a litany of negative questions that many of us tend to ask ourselves. And probably one of the biggest ones is, what's wrong with X, Y, or Z? What's wrong with? Um, and even sometimes, like, what were they thinking? Because it doesn't necessarily invite us into a real, into a productive path of exploration. But sometimes if we're in a process of self-exploration, which I invite wholeheartedly, as particularly with the caveat that we do so without judgment. Annie, welcome. Annie says, I'm here for the first time as well. I'm in Belgium. I'd like to share your live link with a friend, but don't know how. I think you're on YouTube. I don't know how to do that, Annie. If there's somebody listening who might have an understanding of how to do that, that would be awesome. If you were on Facebook, you could go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page, and maybe there's a way to share the link from there. This isn't my bailiwick. I'm so sorry, but thank you for the lovely desire to share. There will be replays that you can share also. Oh, so Brandy's saying hi to Annie. Wonderful. Anyway, this is a party. I'm so delighted to have you all here. So I'm wondering if you feel inspired. Share a question that you find yourself asking of yourself, or share a positively focused question that might be a great source of inspiration, not only for you, but for everybody that you might, that is listening to this too. Is what kinds of questions can we use that would be forwarding our growth, our development, our joy, our satisfaction. So Annie says, thank you. I'm fully present with you right now. That's delightful. Thank you, Annie. So I invite you all to look, like, what would be some, maybe 3 questions that would be inspiring for you to use to start your day. And maybe maybe one of the questions that could be useful is, what would be the 3 most important things I could do for myself today? And that might be get this thing done, maybe take some time for meditation or self-reflection, maybe walk outside, and who knows what the answers would be for you, but let's ask inspiring questions that encourage us, that rally our being to focus on the things that are most important to us in our lives. And we can take these questions into all different arenas. Even in a moment when you might be feeling really low energy, or you might be feeling kind of overwhelmed, is what might lighten my mood right now? Or what's something good that I can focus on in the moment? What kind of good news? Let's see. Uh, Brandy says, not the questions for today. Is this every day? What time does it start? I have morning cuppa with Terry at 7:08 Central. So Brandy, I go live each morning right after morning cuppa, actually, with Terry at 9 a.m. Eastern. So and we go from 9 to about 9:30 each morning. So it'd be delightful to have you join us. Welcome. I'm so thrilled to have you here with us. Um, and and it's lovely that you follow Terry's show as well. The Morning Cup of Joy is a beautiful, beautiful thing that Terry Angel has been doing for quite some time. And I invite anybody who's listening here to check her out and support her. She is just such a brilliant light in the world. So anyway, let's look at questions for today. Is how can I keep my spirits up today? So maybe it can be, an answer to that might be something so simple as play music or take dance breaks during the day, where you just sort of move around and listen to music and dance and enjoy and play. What can I do that will feed my spirit today? What choices will forward me in my intentions? And Annie Stone says, oh, good. I found you on Facebook, so I'm watching you on 2 devices. Wow, Anne, thank you so much for that. So questions, they're super powerful. And we ask questions a lot unconsciously. And so what the invitation here, it's a multifold invitation. First, to become more aware of our questions as we're asking them. Second, to bring questions conscious, to consciously ask good questions, questions that are going to forward us in our intentions, in supporting us in our lives. So it's also important to be willing to listen to what's going on around us and to question those sorts of things as well, to question the information that we are receiving. So one of the questions when it comes to media is that true? Is that true? And can I find out more about that, rather than just being passive repositories or sponges for this information? Dido, welcome. So good to have you joining us. So Dido says it's so funny. I was talking to my son yesterday about asking questions and being open to inspiration that comes in. And these can lead to more open, broader questions that are more powerful. Absolutely, Dido. Thank you so much for that. Like we can see in our questions, it's like, how can I take this to the next level, for example? Or how can I expand on this idea in a way that I can actually find ways to implement this in the world? And what are my passions? What am I really passionate about? And how can I expand my passions? As you're saying, Dido, is talking about inspiration and moving into that inspiration. And what might that look like? How would that feel? How would I feel if I were inspired? How would I be breathing? How would I be holding my body if I were inspired and excited and confident and joyful? So I invite you to just like, as we're talking right now, to feel into some of those questions. Like, how would I feel if I really truly loved myself? How would I hold my body if I really loved myself? What might I, what might I eat? What would I eat that would be supportive of my being and my intentions? Or it's not about making rules for ourselves, but even something like, what kind of habits might support me that I would enjoy, that would support me in being in greater alignment? Do you see how these questions are crafted to create generative experience, to generate experience, to generate a different sense of being in our body, a different sense of our perspective in the moment? How about this? How could I look at this in a different way that would be illuminating? Let's say we have an altercation with somebody, or we're really stressed about something. What we might ask is, how could I look at this differently that would dissolve the stress? What might be another way to approach this where I could feel more balanced? Because again, the mind wants to answer the questions and will come up with information. In that way, AI is patterned on that kind of response. I don't know if you all have played with AI or not. I'm having a blast doing it, messing around with it. And what I notice is pretty much at the end of any interaction, the AI asks a question. And that question is meant to generate an opening, or uh, to create a continued engagement. And we're not different in that way. I mean, we can generate further and richer engagement by the quality of questions we ask. So it can be a fun game to play with ourselves. It's like, what can I do in this moment to shift my energy? That's a good one, because so many of us really um, fa- fall into, well, all of us, I imagine, fall into ebbs and flows of energy. So, how can I pick up my energy in this moment? What will it take to feel better? Now, admittedly, it takes a little bit of a meta awareness, like a broader observational awareness, to even remember to ask the question. So that's where we get to create new habits for ourselves, the habit of asking questions, right? And it's important to ask the question, just because somebody says so, is that true? Even if they say it with great authority. Like we might say something like, I am so stupid. And and some of us have that kind of messaging. What we can do when we're present to actually hearing that question, or why am I so stupid, instead of going down that rabbit hole, what we can set ask the we can ask a different question, right? And recognize that, where did that question come from? Instead of believing it, we can also just say, is that really true? Is it really true that I think I'm this, that, and the other thing, but is that really true? And what's the evidence that actually contradicts that? And we can do that with others too, when they assert something with passion. Just because somebody asserts it loudly and passionately doesn't mean it's true. And I think we get to question that with ourselves as well, right? When we say these things to ourselves about ourselves, when we ask questions like, what's wrong with me? Because that's a pattern question for so many people. How about if you hear yourself ask that question, how about what's right with me? And to challenge the assumptions that we have about ourselves, and even that we have about the world, like the world's a dangerous or scary place, is like, well, what might challenge that assumption? What might show me that that's not a complete picture? It's the quality of the questions we ask. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And it's been so delightful to have the opportunity to interact with all of you today. As always, I'm deeply grateful for this opportunity, and I so appreciate you. So until